Welcome, comic book fans, to another episode of Slideshow Reviews, hosted by Geekality. It's November 8th, 2013. This is by far one of my favorite episodes of Slideshow Reviews, as every comic I had to read this week was absolutely incredible. So let's start things off with Suicide Risk, issue 7. Written by Mike Carey with illustrations by Elena Casagrande. Suicide Risk is another superhero title in a sea of superhero titles that stands out because of the maturity of the writing. The characters feel like real people thanks to solid writing and believable dialogue. The intelligence of the villains makes it perfectly clear from the onset that these are no cookie-cutter bad guys, and that elevates the level of danger, which in turn elevates the level of excitement. At times, Suicide Risk seems more like a thriller than a superhero title, which I love. It adds an element of mystery as events unfold, definitely not your normal superhero beat-em-up. When working on any superhero-themed title, however, there will be tons of action. For that to have the full effect on the reader, you need a talented illustrator, and Alina is just that. The beautiful faces she creates helps ground Mike's story in realism, but when she needs to draw the extraordinary, boy, does she does so with a nuance that is sorely lacking in comics today. Most action scenes in comics are either boring due to lack of creativity or gory and over the top. Alina is creative with the ways people use their powers in Suicide Risk without showing exploding heads and hearts being torn out, the Tarantino style. At the very least, that was the case in this issue, and I fully appreciate that. If there's a way to draw action scenes with elegance and style, she sure as hell knows how to do it. The story is compelling enough, good versus evil, end of the world type deal, but there's so much more to it than that. Each character seems to have their own needs, and it's that depth of character that really makes Suicide Risk worth reading. I recommend this issue and the entire series. Great work by Boom Studios, which continues to produce some of the best mature reader superhero titles around. Suicide Risk, issue 7, gets a try. Next up, with today's fantastic trio of comic books, is East of West, issue 7. East of West just goes to show you that the best comics being made today are being made at Image. East of West by Jonathan Hickman is marvelously bizarre. What to call it? A sci-fi western? Dark fantasy epic? Superhero title? It's so strange, yet that strangeness is what captivates you. The story is interesting enough, good versus evil, coming apocalypse, but it's the unique characters in the original world that will pull you in and make you emotionally invested from the first issue you read. There is absolutely nothing else out there even remotely close to East of West. If you want originality, if you want something different, if you want something good, then this is the title for you. Nick Dragotta's illustrations and Frank Martin's painting style blend perfectly to create a very Aeon Flux animated feel to this surreal world. They give life to these still images and will immerse you in this world where the very water has something to say. The whole experience on East and West, from the concept to the writing, illustrations, and coloring, was marvelous, and I can't recommend this issue and the entire series enough. East of West, issue 7, gets a try. Finally is Fatale, issue 8. By Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, Fatale was all kinds of weird. Having disliked Criminal, I shied away from Fatale, but I now realize that was a mistake. Criminal, this is not. Fatal, issue 18, starts out with a very down-to-earth scenario, a murder amongst friends, and they have to cover it up in order to protect everyone's secrets. Then Ed injects acid right into the heart of the story. A diabolic cripple seeks out the seductive Jane. Mad Cthulhu-style visions swim through her mind, and her aura, pulsating from her when she dances, turns the whole thing into a bizarre marriage of Eyes Wide Shut and The Twilight Zone. There are so many elements involved with Fatale's story that it's hard to pin down a genre, which is always a good thing. In an era of stale superhero comics, Fatale is one of the rare titles that offers us something new and original. This is definitely not for kids, but any adult looking for a good read will be more than pleased with Fatale issue 18. The writing alone, cool concept, interesting story, tight dialogue, is more than enough reason to recommend this issue. Sean's illustrations may not please fans of more detailed work, but his style perfectly fits the dark and atmospheric evils that lurk at the corners of Fatale. It feels like an old-fashioned story that can fit right into the Cthulhu mythos, and Sean's work perfectly suits that. Like, this is a great story in an old pulp magazine instead of a modern comic book. If you're a fan of titles like 30 Days of Night or old pulp comics, then Sean's work will feel like an old friend. This was a bizarre, entertaining read that snared my interest and has me wanting to come back for more. I fully recommend Fatale issue 18 and the entire series. A big try. Well, that's it for this week's comics. I wish it wasn't over. I don't always get great comics like this to read. But good comics, bad comics. I'll be back here as always, providing you fans with more slideshow reviews. Until next time.